Hey, how's it going? My name's Roz, and I had a dumb idea, and I kind of wanted to work it out and see what it does. I work in lighting. I like to use these lights, the AX9s. I like to use the Boat 89. The gig coming up, and was thinking about doing this. Probably not going to do this because it's a super dumb idea. AX9s Mode 89 on a Leprechaun LP1524. This is ridiculous if you know what this stuff is. And if you don't, it's still ridiculous because it's pretty stupid. Reasoning is because I want to see what happens and it might be fun. So let me break in and break everything down what these parts are. Basically, I'm going to light a stage with 8 lights. I'm going to use a board from the 90s that is really, really simple and takes a little bit of work to set up, but it's kind of fun. If you like DMX, if you're kind of a nerd, if you don't like DMX, you might actually like it after this. So let's break in. Let's go to what's going on. So I've kind of set up this dumb scenario where I got a small event, professional event, and it needs a little stage lit well. We're talking about 5-point lighting here. It needs to look good on camera and live, right? You don't want to kill people either. You kind of want them comfortable up there. Needs to load in, set up, and load out quickly. Because who likes pain? I know I don't. And for 8 lights, my usual ride's an MA3, and that's kind of why I thought of this. Like, why am I bringing this huge freaking console for 8 lights? I mean, there's other options. The ETC color source. I have a little MA Viz key. I can hook to my laptop. It worked just fine. Hooked it up to a Stardust, and we're out. Maybe you don't know what I'm talking about there, but it's radios. I'll get into it later, probably on a different, maybe one of these things. All right, go to slide 2. So, steps to the solution. So, whenever I got a lighting job, the first thing I think about is where I'm going to put the lights, how they're pointed at things, right? So, I'm going to go ahead and draw a rough light plot. For a small gig, this happens on a bar napkin or a piece of paper and a Sharpie. Even for big gigs, it usually starts out with a piece of paper and a Sharpie. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to choose light fixtures based upon what my needs are. So, is it a spot? Is it a wash? And then if it's a bigger gig, I'll go and draw a full light plot using computer assisted drafting software. It helps you visualize lighting. There's a few out there: Vectorworks, Capture, um, a whole bunch of them. And you don't really want to be messing around, program the console on site. I know it looks cool, but nobody likes you. You're back at the tech board working. Nobody sees it that way. We all know that you're probably working, but why don't you get in there with a wrench and help this thing get up quicker? Next step is we're going to visualize that pre-programmed console and do a visualizer. I use Capture for this. It's great at it. There's a couple else out there that are less expensive. You're just getting into it. Prep gear for load it. This is a shop thing. You want to make sure everything just connects when you get on site. You don't want to be messing around. You just want to load this in. Currently, the way I have my inventory set up, it's pretty much matched. Especially if I'm dealing with Stera product or Legos. I don't like to patch them. It's like another time suck on site. Nobody wants that. Let's get the coffee break. Let's put this thing up. Let's make sure the client sees that it's lit. Their stress is down. Your stress is down. Everybody's happy. We're not curing cancer here. We're just lighting a stage. All right. So I'm going to use AX9s for this because I love them. This is a battery-powered wireless par. Has a great output on it. I've run these things for 2 or 3 days on battery. You can wire it with copper, or you can wire it with CRMX or CRMX2, which I can get into for you. Basically, it's just a wireless protocol. They have devices, and you can either send DMX to them through Ethernet, or you can use a copper cable, depending upon your needs. There's different products out there. Um, that's a whole show in and of itself, and we're not going to get upside down with that right now. All right, so let's get into these attributes. So this light, it's got a CRI of 96. So that's the color rating index. It's how well light something, it can show the color of that object. Sometimes things get lit with LED. They don't quite look how they would look under the sun, which is what we compare everything to, as we should, because the sun is the biggest light in the building, and you can't mess with it. It's the big dog on the block. If you've ever tried to mess with the sun on a lighting job, unless you got a ton of resources, you're probably lost. They do have some lights that can do that, and they are insane. So this light uses what we call an interpretive engine. So instead of like all these emitters being driven directly from the data that comes in, it kind of chooses how it's going to interpret that based upon sensor data in the light. And the reason it does this is because semiconductors are kind of almost organic in a way. I mean, they're very small, they're very tiny. So there's differences in the semiconductors from batch to batch or even from one to another. And so it has ways of compensating for that so that one light looks like another light. Now, with any LED, interpretive engines, sometimes they look a little different, and then you got to get in and kind of manually change it. I'll take not running cables, you know, over and not changing lamps over that. Enough of that. It's got 13 degrees native. It can do 32 with flood, and has a 17 by 46 with wall wash. So the wall wash is great for uplighting a wall. You can also take it sideways, point it at a stage, and you got a nice ovular cut. And you put that at the correct distance, the correct intensity, and the beam flood on that is kind of in a way that you can almost shape it with your intensity if you put the light in the right position. Just remember, lighting always comes down to getting it in the right position to begin with. So it doesn't matter how good your programming is, how good your equipment is. If you don't put the light in the right place, it just isn't going to work. You're gonna be struggling with it, doing all kinds of dumb things. 12.5 pounds, which is great. You can carry, whatever. You throw it on something. It's pretty easy to rig. Like I said earlier, it takes a DMX cable, it takes CRMX, CRMX2. There's an app. You can control it with an app if you want. Well, then you got to connect to the app all the time. That's a whole episode in itself of going through, Astera land. Some people call it Astera hell. I like Astera, so Astera heaven maybe. Cool. You can mount it with a baby pin to a maffer. You can use an old style Altman C clamp, the big metal ones. They go in there. You just want to make sure that it's not deformed or it won't fit. It's very tight. There's a track clamp if you need to run it on some tracking. That comes from Astera. You'll need to get their track clamp for that. And the legs come off for a clean, upright look. Now, I'm going to make a note on this. If you're rigging an AX9, you're going to want to take your safety and put it on the actual fixture. And the reason is the legs come off. So if you're just tying that safety around the yoke, probably not the best idea. I mean, I wouldn't do it. All right, cool. Let's go on to this next one. Great. We're going to go way back in time to the before time. So this is a 24 channel XY preset memory fader console. Basically, this is a bunch of potentiometers that tell a computer to calculate DMX values. Okay, that's all this thing does, right? And it has a couple other functions we'll get into later, not today, but it can do some chases, you can do some stacks, you can do some queues, you can do fade times, it can do a lot, right? But just to basically understand what this thing is, it takes channels up and down. This is from back in the day when you'd have like a, just 24 channel dimmer, right? You two for a bunch of stuff. This is before time stuff. If you want me to get into it, I'll get into it. But you don't need to know it because they don't do it that way anymore. But all you need to know is they used to just have one channel. It was intensity, and they would turn the light up and down. And they could do a bunch of stuff with that, but that's what you need to know about this board. It takes lights and turns them up and down. It doesn't do things like color. It doesn't do things like pan and tilt. It doesn't do attributes, but it will do whatever you program it to do. It's a very simple device, so you can program it, but the programming has to be approached kind of with your brain. Cool. All right, this thing can control 512 channels of DMX. Only 24 channels, but it can control 512 channels of DMX. How does it do that? Okay, we'll get into that in a second. The default patch is 1-to-1. It goes 1 through 24. So when you bring this thing up, you've got control of DMX channels 1 through 24 on the copper output in the back. Now it has two other custom patches. Now what these do is they allow you to either move that patch to a different location. Let's say I want to start at 25. I want to do 25 through 48. Sure, you can go ahead and do that. Let's say I want to do something crazy and have all the channels all over the place. You could do that. You can also take channels and stack them on top of each other, right? So if you want to make groups out of channels, you want to group channels together, you want to take attributes that you want to control together. Like when you're on your hog or your MA or Avo, whatever you use, Onyx, it's you're grouping stuff together, you put groups in there. I like to do this, I like to do that. You can do that. You just got to stack them on top. It takes a lot of attention, design, but it can be done on this board. Another thing I'd like to mention about these boards is they're really cheap right now. Like you get one for like 150, 200 bucks, pretty good board. You want to spend 500, you get an awesome board. I got a, LP1624 that I bought for not too much money. It's a great board. It's, pretty good board. And this is the LP1524, which is down from there. This thing was introduced in 92, 93. Records aren't exactly clear. And I think at that time, I was just worried about skipping school and getting hoagies at Wawa. Wasn't really in the industry. I'm sure some of you were. You'd be like, you tell me some better information on that. I'd appreciate it. This was coming out right at the time before they came out with the modern light boards, right? We're talking about like a hog. Like a hog was like groundbreaking at this time, and that came out in 92, 93. They built 75 of those bad boys, and really did change the industry when they approached it from a different direction, right? This approaches things from the direction, it's like the finest direction of the memory console when you're getting into the Leprechaun, my opinion. ETC Expression 3, also a great one. A little bit more complicated, has a lot more functions. I kind of like the limitation of not having a keypad. Maybe that's too much information. Who knows? But in any case, this thing uses a Texas Instrument processor made in Texas back in those days, right? So remember the old calculators? This thing uses the same processor. It's like, I don't know how to say, it's like a machine. It's like more machine than it is computer. It's super reliable. They still run. I think there's some running in space right now, going outside of the solar system, and they're just doing just fine. I mean, the only thing you really got to know about these guys is you got to keep that flash memory charged. Otherwise, it's going to lose all of its data, and you're going to have to reflash it. That's a pain in the ass. So if you buy one of these, just go out and get yourself a battery for it. I'll drop the battery number in the little notes at the bottom of this video, so you've got it. The other thing you want to do is get some fader deox, fader deox F5. You want to clean these things out because these things are old. This is a 33, 32-year-old board. There's a fair amount of corrosion and dust that's built up. And basically the physical moving of the fader is your data input. So if anything's broken, you're going to get skips, jips, jumps, and it's not great. Now these are going to happen because these boards are older. So you've got to kind of accept that and either work around it or don't use it. You can clean these things up really well. And like I said before, I'm going to reiterate, this is only designed to deal with intensity values. All right. It doesn't do anything else. Right. It just takes channels up and down. Very, very, very simple. All right. So we're going to go back. We're going to go back and we're going to take a little look and we're going to go over and we're going to look at how we're going to lay these lights out because that's really going to inform us how we want to lay the board out, right? Because the board is simply there to control the lights. We can control the lights in a way that makes sense to us. I'm going to lay it out in a way that I think might make sense to me. Try it out and see what happens. That's a lot of what Discovery is about. Alrighty. Okay, let me move over here real quick. All right, cool. So there's a lot of drafting software. You guys expensive. Um, like I said, usually I do this on a piece of paper. That seemed kind of hard to do. Um, and I didn't want to like go to Vectorworks. So I'm using something called Krita. It's free. It's a free tool. I haven't really used it before, but it looks like it can get the job done for the basic things we need to do today because we're just going to draw. All right, so I've got a room. Let's say it's about this shape. Works for me. Let me find a square over here. Okay, I'm going to draw a stage. Great, I have a stage. Look at that. That's my stage. It's a little bigger than I want it to be, but I think we'll live. So then we're going to have lights. We can draw truss. Don't really feel like it, you know. All right, so we're going to want to light this stage from approximately this angle over here. It looks like we can't get to a prime angle. It's about there, so we're going to go here. And that's the way the world works. Okay, I've got a light here. That's cool. I'll make these ovals because I think these are probably going to use that wall wash filter we were talking about. They're really nice for front wash sometimes. All right. Either that or narrow, depending on the number of lights. A lot will use the narrow lens. Obviously, these would rotate in towards the stage. So basically, you've got a left, right, you've got a center, right? All right. So I like to use something called high sides. But I kind of split the difference, do my own thing. Let's make this look more like a circle. It should be a little farther out than it is, but that's the general idea. I'm going to draw another one over here. It doesn't have to be exact. You're just kind of thinking. Okay, so right now we have 5 lights. So I'm going to do something called a high side high and a high side low. Alternate depth, whatever you want to do. Those are just the ways I kind of categorize it in my own mind. Okay, that's supposed to be in the center. It's not. I'll get exact when I get to capture. All right. So here's where your 8 lights are. All right. They're, they are placed based upon one basic concept, and that's intensity and direction, right? And field and flood size and all that stuff. But if you get the basic direction right, and you have the intensity, that's where you want to start. So now I'm going to kind of think out how I want to focus. So I'm going to take this, that's going to come across. I'm going to take this, that's going to come across, right? So I got a nice in here, I got a nice in there. This is going to come from the front. This one's going to hurt, so it's probably just going to hum, maybe 10% usually. These things I don't gun too hard in the front. I don't like to kill people. I just like to see them. All right, cool. So this one's going to come over here. It's going to come across and do that, right? The idea is we're trying to light people hard from the side. See the sides of their faces. We don't want to be uneven. So this guy's going to come across from here. And it's going to light the other side of the face. Now we're going to go for the back of the hair and the right side. I'm going to do more of a center focus on this one. This we're going to call high side close, right? This is going to be another high side close. This show has no specials, so I'm just lighting the stage. The stage is lit. This guy over here probably should be 2 guys or be another 10 feet back. But basically, this is your back, main back rear light. So this gets the top of the head, gets you some contrast in the shot or in how you look. So let's think about a couple things right here. So this is the intensity. So if we light this coming up, we take the intensities, we make them all even. We try to make it so it looks like, oh, that's nice and even, right? There's other tools in an AX9 that are not in just a dimmer light. A dimmer light goes up and down, but an AX9 does all kinds of crazy stuff. And more than that, it could do the exact flavor of crazy that you want, right? So you could do an RGB mode, you could have strobes and do all these other things. But today I just want to kind of control some color temperature. I want to be able to control color. I want to be able to change my green magenta point. This is important for cameras. It's also really cool just to, you could do cool things with it. So what can you do with this thing? All right, let's go over here. So this is the profile I'm going to use. This is how the light receives DMX data and what it does with it. So we can kind of just look at this for a second and try to understand it. Let's try to understand some basic things, okay? All right, so right here we have a dimmer channel on top. We've got a color temperature, right? Color temperature. If you don't know what color temperature is, look it up. 32 is really super warm. 6K, 7K is like that bright, cold aliens from space, right? Green magenta point, it just moves whether the white is being made, like the contents of the white is going to have more green, is going to have more magenta. I'm sure there's a better science answer for that, but pull the fader, see what happens. We have something called a crossfade. Now the crossfade, this light operates in both color temperature and RGB at the same time. And we'll get a little deeper into that later. But basically, you can move out of your color temperature kind of mode and you can crossfade it, meaning takes those values and mixes them, and between just red, green, and blue, simple LED mixing, right? So this is another tool for color that's inside the light. So when you're looking at the light, you've basically got two tool sets for color. Okay, you've got color temperature, green, magenta point, and then you've got red, green, and blue. And those are two separate tool sets. So that you can make those two separate and totally different things. Now, as far as intensity goes, you've literally got two tool sets in here for intensity. So one is your dimmer. If you take your dimmer up, and then you have values in color temperature, whatever that color temperature is going to be at that intensity, right? Now, if you take your dimmer up and you have cross-faded to red, green, and blue, let's say I want to get sneaky, because I got to get sneaky because I'm putting everything on a 24 channel board and I kind of want to shut some things off sometimes. And I'm going to have some severe limitations with that. Red, green, and blue at 0 with intensity up on an AX9, that's going to give you no light, right? So that's another tool. And you can use this in a variety of ways. So if you wanted to dim it, you want it to be off, you wanted to, I don't know, do whatever you want. Just have a slightly different color temperature in a different group. You wanted to make this red. You want to pull everything out. There's a lot of tools you could do with that crossfade tool and how the intensity works with red, green, and blue versus color temperature. All right, so let me switch back to this screen. We're going to think about color temperature for a minute because we're going to have to make some choices. We are using 8 lights that have 7 channels apiece. That's 56 channels, and it has to go on to 24 faders. That means we're going to be stacking attributes. So this can either hurt us or it can help us, and that's really our choice. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to group my attributes. So when you're lighting a stage, let me just kind of get over here at the cursor real quick. See if I can find something that's just a line, and I'm going to make it like green or something. All right, cool. So let's say I decided I wanted to have 3 groups of color temps, right? So I'm going to take all the lights and I'm going to stack all of those color temperature channels into 3 groups. I'm going to call these color temp 1, color temp 2, and color temp 3. Seems like easier than having a whole bunch of numbers, right? And it's fast and it's easy to adjust. And if I need them all to equal the same, sure I can. But I have differences in places where I might want them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do color temp 1, which is going to be green. And that should be green. Just draw over that, make it green. There we go. Now we're green. So it's going to be my color temp 1. So color temp 1 is going to write the stage left to right contrast, right? Now I'm kind of looking at the side of this person's face right now. And I'm saying I probably want this to be color temp 1 too. Right? Okay. Cool. And you can change your mind at any time. And A little bit of pain in the ass patching it until I get AI to figure out how to do it and I figure out how to hack these consoles. Yeah, but AI can wait another day. All right, so we're going to do color temperature, right? And that's going to be this. And this is the main point here. I've got two color temperatures coming in. I have contrast. Contrast is very important, helps us define things. It's natural. When you look at the way light radiates, there's always contrast to color temperatures and intensity. It gives things definition, right? All right, cool. So I'm going to come over here, and I think red is going to do that. Red is going to do that, right? And then I've got just this one. This is baffling me on my sheet when I looked at it. I was like, why do I just have this one color temp? Well, it's the back, right? And here's the thing. Sometimes that back can be many. And if we did that, we'd probably take all of these and do some fancy footwork, work on that so that they kind of switched well. But now as I kind of look at it, I've got a nice alternation in the back and all around. So I have nice color temperature control. Now, when we're dealing with color, we're gonna have a different. We want to kind of be able to cross these spaces, right? So now you're playing the alternate game. Now you're saying, okay, well, if I wanted to control the color temperature for these lights back here separately, let me find something like purple. So I'm going to just do color group 1 real quick. So I'm going to make color group 1 for the RGB. That's going to be color group 1. That's going to be color group 1. And oh, come on, baby. That's going to be color group 1, right? Because now I can control these all the same, right? So I can control the color temp here with the color temperature, and I can control, well, it's an interpretive engine, so you can take RGB and make a color temperature out of it if you want to. And I'm going to control those here. Cool. And then what else am I going to do? Let me make another one. And I don't know what I did on the sheet. I probably did something completely different, but this is the fun of the work, really. So let's just start. Let's keep this group. Yeah, I'm not going to break up left, right. Left, right, that band's got to stay together, right? But let's say I just wanted to have an easy hammer. We'll do that. Now I've got that. Now I've got that. Yep, and it looks like I'm lonely on 3 again. Poor old 3 got left out of the equation. There's probably a way to mess with that, but I'm not going to. You're gonna probably getting the idea at this point, but you can play with it. So let's just make yellow. Let me fill my box and make sorry, RGB3. So just to review, we've got all the intensities pointing at the stage in all directions. Each light, has an intensity control. Some are actually grouped the way I did it because channels. All right, so then we go ahead and we have green, green, green. That's my color temperature for those, but I can also approach them from this other RGB color. So I have full color control over everything in a weird way. Now, where these intersect, you want to start thinking about your crossover fader, right? Because now you could do something different with each light if you're not intersecting your crossover fader. And this is where I built a spreadsheet where I get nuts with this stuff. Because doing it here, you're going to lose your damn mind. So let me switch over to that spreadsheet and we're going to go into that real quick. Woo, spreadsheet. Where'd that come from? Outer space. All right, so here's a spreadsheet I made for crossing, for putting an AX9 on a 24 channel light console, because that's obviously a good idea. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? So basically, I made some decisions. Don't know if they're good or bad, but I made them. So we've got 6 dim groups. 1 isn't being used, probably because it didn't make sense to use it. We have 3 color crossfades. We have 3 magenta points. We have 3 RGB groups, and we have 3 color temperature groups. These are assigned to board channels. Now, you got all these DMX addresses over here. You might be wondering what these are. Well, these are the addresses of the fixtures, okay? And what fixture addresses are being assigned to what channels. Because this isn't like a light console where you just take, I mean, you can, but you don't just take it, it isn't a block. You can break that block up over faders and combine faders into one another, right? And then you can even, when you go to preset, you can take all that and combine it. We'll get into that. But you can make like little preset go handles just with stuff you like that you want to bring up during the show. We're going to go over here. We're going to look at the fixtures real quick so we can understand why we're doing this again. All right, cool. So we've got the fixtures, and we're going to see that you have a lot of channels here, right? You've got 56 channels, right? And that's why we got to do all this monkey business with thinking out, control groups for things, right? Or attribute groups. So you can see that this is basically just a spreadsheet. I take the dim one, assign it to dim two. I'm going to get a result that comes out, right? It's going to have my channel patch, going to show me where things go. Right. All right, cool. So this shows me my channel patch, and this relates all that information back to the other spreadsheet. So this essentially says, all right, I'm going to have one goes to one. Channel two is going to go on dimmer two is going to go on channel 22. Little caveat when we get into patching the LP. So the dimmers are like the DMX channels, and the channel is literally just that fader. So when you go to a dimmer, you're assigning a DMX channel to a fader, right? And so I did it this way because I tried doing it the other way, and one second, I'm just waiting for my computer to catch up. This was driving me insane. Like trying to go to this board channel and do it like just the way the LP's laid out. It's not great. Maybe on my 1696 it's a little better. Um, I'll check that out. Maybe I don't know. So basically, you try to patch it that way. You're just going to go down here. 1 second. Speed up. All right, cool. And I'm just going to go down these channel patches, these dimmers, and I'm going to go and just assign them to channels, right? So just straight up assign them to channels. So let's look at the strategy real quick. So I've got the color crossfades on the front all combined, right? So that means that I can take the full wash out, right? Using color groups 1 and 2 or using dims 1 and 2. So I have two strategies. Okay. All right. And then we have our green magenta is all 1 on everything. And our color temp is 2 in the middle. So we have a combined green magenta point. This seems to be with cameras. Green magenta is kind of a big deal. Slightly bigger deal sometimes than minor differences in color temperature, as those can be really aesthetically pleasing. But sometimes there's things in the green and magenta that just aren't working for cameras. All right, we'll go down here, and basically we got dim 3, we got dim 4, we got dim 5, and that's really the center, right? So we're going 3, 4, 5 in the center. Let me just switch that back. I'll show you in capture, but basically these are your 3 front lights, 1, 2, 3, and then 4 starts on the left. You have 5 lights going over. So this is just mirrored, okay? It comes back, the dimmer goes down the other side like a hill, right? Backlights are like a hill, and it's symmetrical. Like even when I program on a, console that can do everything independently, I find ways to make everything symmetrical on the backlights when I can. Now, if it has to be asymmetrical because the situation or the energy is moving it that way, of course I'm going to do it. And there are ways in this setup to make it asymmetrical. We'll get into that when we start programming. So here we go. We have red. We're alternating here. We have 2, right, is on my sides. I have 3. I have 1, right? I have 3. And then I should be 2 down here. Yep. Cool. So everything's kind of crossed. You can see my crossfades are all a little different. I can move things around. I can change things from light to light. I can make a difference. Because differences give you contrast, right? So if something's next to one other thing, I want to have the maximum amount of flexibility inside of the system I'm operating to create those differences. Of course, I'm going to try to make those changes as simple as possible and intuitive so that I can reach out with my humanity and get to it without having to turn into a robot. Okay, so went over the sheet. I think you can see it from here. We have all the attributes by fixture number. We have groups that we've made in an Excel sheet. These help to generate the values that have to be entered into the board. Remember that the challenge here is to organize the 24 channels into a way to be able to control them effectively, right? So my mouse ever starts working. Go back to the board. Kind of review this goal again. Putting 56 channels onto 24 faders. And we have organizing into groups to go do a lot of functions, probably more functions than we need for most. Just lighted up shows or even though actually probably fine. All right. Cool. All right. Going back here. This is what the board looks like. This is I'm not sure, maybe 93, 94. Could be newer, could be older. Who knows? It's a base model. It doesn't have any of the doodads on it, like the floppy drive. My LP1696 has some floppies. Thinking there might be some fun I can get into with that. We'll see. All right. Now we're going to go work board real quick. All right. Let me bring it up here. So, all right. The fun part. The part I'm actually not looking forward to because honestly, this is why people got intelligent consoles. Because doing soft patches is a little bit time consuming. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the setup key. Now you see that we're directly on the patch, right? That's where you're starting out. This active label 0 default, that all relates directly to the way that this board is patched, right? We look back, let's look at this board again. We've got 24 faders, X, Y. So there's faders on the top and the bottom. At the top is the X, the bottom is the Y. Preset part, the Y can also be presets, which we will get into later. Got enough to do right now. We're busy with this, so we'll go ahead, hold down the modify key, roll up. Now I'm in patch 1, right? So you have two patches, you have 3 patches on this board. One, default 1 through 24, and then you have custom patch 1 and custom patch 2. So you could do 2 custom patches on this board. All right, let's get into the fun part. Part that I do not really want to get into. All right, so we've got dimmer, right? Dimmer relates to DMX channel. Channel relates to faders. Remember, you have 512 DMX channels that are capable of being patched to this board, but you only have 24 faders. The faders are the channels. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and it looks like my work is done here. Great. I'm going to hit the modify key because I'm on channel 1, dimmer 1, channel 1. Okay, dimmer 2, channel 2. Great. So I'm going to want to go ahead and roll my channel to 22. Okay. My DMX channel is on 22. I'm going to take that now. All right. I'll put that on 2. So dimmer 22, channel 2. All right, next we got 3. I'm going to go ahead and roll. Okay, so channel 3 is 10. Great. All right, cool. Gonna roll to 3. Come on, 3. Come on, 3. Oh. There we go. Took a little codgeling, but we got there. Cool. All right, now I'm going to go to dimmer 4. Well, dimmer 4 is going to channel 7. Okay. Now, guess what? I'm going to 5. 5 is going to 13. Takes a minute to kind of get in the flow. And sometimes you got to like back in and back up. I don't know what that's about. All right. Now we're going to go to dimmer 6. Remember, we have 56 of these to do. Or I do. You can watch me. Yeah, I mean, kind of want to figure out an exploit to get in here with my computer. Then I kind of don't because it sounds like a ton of work and could be fun if I'm using this a lot, but maybe not a good investment of my time. We will see how easy this could be made to be done. One thing to note right now, faders are like stupid expensive. You go to buy fader wing for something, you're spending thousands of dollars. This doesn't exactly work as well as most of your automated faders, but if you're a weekend warrior or you really know how to use it correctly, this can be made to do your work. Okay. Okay. And we keep on going. It's 23. Sometimes you gotta skips. All right, going to 10. Okay, and 10 is going to be, oh, looking low. 10 is 10. Love it. Okay, and there we go to 11. And 11 is 7. It's almost 7-11. 12. Okay, let's get channel 16. Okay. 13. It's going to be 17. Okay, come on. See, it's doing that thing again. All right, 13 is going to be 17 and 14. It's going to be 18 behind. So really do want to make sure you kind of replace your battery before you do this, or, you know, if you want to keep it, don't be afraid to do it because you haven't replaced your battery. You know, it's kind of actually nice exercise in some ways, meditative, just repeating a task over and over, digging a hole. Okay. But if you're planning on just kind of doing it once or twice or updating it when you need to, Yeah, the battery in here has about a 2-year lifespan. So if you buy this used, you want to replace that battery, you want to buy a couple of those, throw them in the case that you keep it in. Um, these are not really made anymore, so I literally, honestly, I recommend. Ooh, what are we doing? All right, I recommend getting a good case. All right, the 10. Start getting some more cross patch here. Okay, 18. 18 is 7. So another cross patch. Sorry, I just had some chicken tenders. All right, 18. Now we're going to 19, which is 13. Remember, I'm hitting the modify button, roll it up. It's 19 is 13. Let me scroll down so you can follow me off right now from where you are. There we go. Caught back up. Okay, 19 is 13. Okay, we're going to go to 20. All right, 20 is 14. Well, yeah, that makes sense. I think I did a couple of those wrong back there. We're going to find out when I fire this thing up. Probably fix it. All right, and then we're going to do 21. Come on. Come on. Decided to go total weirdo on me right now. Oh. It went total weirdo on me there for a minute. All right, cool. 21. All right. Sometimes these little processors just get, I don't know, some of their other functions besides the main gig. Yeah, a little bit like, you gotta use the force. It's kind of cool. 22 is going to be 3. Let's go to 23. That's going to be 24. Great. All right. 24 is going to be 12. Okay. 25. It's 25. 25 is going to be 9. I definitely don't recommend kind of winging this. I mean, if you don't make a spreadsheet or something, you definitely want to go in with kind of a written out plan. And just the way this works, it seems like it's easier to go with the dimmer and go up than to try to chase channels around. All right, so 25 is 9, 26 is darn glasses. 26 is close enough for glasses. 26 is 16. All right. 27. 27 is a number. It has a corresponding number, which is 17. Okay, 28. Okay, 28 is 18. Okay, so obviously we're in RGB. That's why they're sequential. Okay, all right. We go to 29. Okay. You can lay out RGB any way you want. It might actually be a fun second patch for this. Just do the whole thing in RGBs. I mean, you could do the whole thing in RGBs without doing a custom patch, but it's the fun. I'm just choosing any at that point. All right, so let's go to 30. Okay. Let's go to 22. Okay. We're going to go to 31. It's going to be 12. 12? Yeah, 12. Just read and do. And that's what I'm doing right now is just hacking away. Whoa. Down dog. Where were we? We're at 12, 31, 32. Yeah, this encoder is probably a little dirty too. Never cleaned up this encoder. Over time, corrosion, chemicals, dirt. This is very much a piece of hardware in the way it works. In the age of this is electronics at its finest. 33. $34. $35. Now the fun part's when I see if I screwed up when I get this thing into capture. See, these channels come up wrong, and then I gotta go hunt DMX channels, which is gonna be interesting. All right. 36 is 5. Come off my page again. Let me scroll down for you. Follow along. $36 is 5. 36 is 5. Next number is 37. Corresponding number for 37 is 23. You get the backlights here. There's a lot of kind of adjacent cross patching. I'm building this so that if I wanted to, I might be able to do some cool things. Kind of backdrop colors and color temperature crossfades and nifty things like that. 3811. Just not a nice, easy board. Plus, if you're outside, say you're lighting a friend's band at a barbecue, yeah, do you really want to bring your Ovalites or your MA and have it get rained on? I've blown up some computers out there, doing a backwoods music festival, and it just starts raining, and you just kind of, you run a backup. Computer, one time my computer went down, I just started the backup right on time. Somebody spilled a beer on it and fried the computer. And as it was going down, I fired up a backup, logged into the session, was able to grab the session, and it was pretty crazy because it like literally just went like straight down. Like the second like the energy came in from logging in that session, it was like the tune where it was the death nail for that console. Okay, what do we got here? 39, 9. All right, cool. Let's go here. We got 40, 13. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, 41. Should be 14. Yeah, write the plan out and don't try to think too much while you're doing it, unless you really enjoy that. That's in your capacity. To me, if I start thinking about this, I'm gonna lose it. All right, 15. That's why I made that spreadsheet. Just good old Google Sheets doing the math for me. Just had to understand what I wanted to do. All right, 42, 43, okay, 4. I guess that's what a lot of this kind of a practice is. It's not very efficient, but it helps you define limitations, help you define what you're looking to get out of something, a piece of equipment. You have every option in the world. You're just going to kind of go all over the place endlessly. Might not take a whole lot of direction. Okay, 44, 22, great. 45 is 12. Okay. And I do have this thing on the UPS because the battery stuff on this thing worries me sometimes. Just the way the RAM is held. It's not that it's impossible to overcome, not nearly, but you got to make sure you replaced your battery recently, and then you're okay. I think I replaced this one a year ago. Probably due for the battery. 46. Bought this to be an external trigger for my MA node because it has a bunch of faders and MA can take in DMX. So it's easy. Way to get some more control surface. 47, 19. It might be fun to kind of replicate this process in an MA and patch the AX9s normally on a separate universe and merge everything in together, kind of how that works. Totally useless, but 100% fun, and never know what you'll learn. 48 is 20. Okay, 49 is 21. Yeah, the backwoods can be tough on gear. That same gig where I blew that computer up, There were some lights that were just like in the tent, and I was thinking about putting a dimmer on them, but as soon as the drummer, who's an awesome drummer, started slamming on the kick drum, it just kind of made them dip, and I was just like, that's perfect. I can't get better than that, because it was just the voltage lag dragging out of the bulb, just made it whoop. It was just, yeah, there's nothing I could do that would be that good. It's like competing with sunlight as a light on a good day. Like sunlight's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm sure other planets love their suns too. Okay. 52. Okay, come on. Channel 10. Okay, 53. Four. Sure, if this clears out, and I like the patch I'm doing, I'll have it memorized at some point. It's starting to make a little bit of sense to me now as I put it in. Like, oh yeah, that's color group 2. It's 16, 17, 18. Okay. There are more advanced boards like this. I think the LP612 has some features that if you're just kind of doing quick and dirty, it's going to be a lot easier to work on something like that. It's a board from the 2000s, kind of a pivot. Like television boards were coming into shape, and you know, um, yeah, um, taking things out. So they could have made a simpler, easy to use board for smaller shows. Okay. How do I get out of this? Yes, we go to presets just to get out of that. I don't even know. Yeah, cool. Pause this and come on back. Alrighty. Okay. Took a little break. Back. So the next step here, whether or not I made any mistakes in that patch or not, I'm going to have to check it. But what I'm going to want to do, make sure I kind of understand where everything should be, right? So for digital readouts, we had white tape. Time to do a fresh show, get new tape, tape her up. All right, so the top is your x-axis. All right, this doesn't change, right? The bottom is your y-axis, which is the same as the x-axis, unless you put it into preset mode, which is over here. The reason I'm only going to label the top is because the bottom can change. And right here, I can have pages. So I leave 2 lines of tape, so I can basically make a line down the middle eventually, And maybe I have 3 pages of presets. Maybe I don't. But I'm going to strategize at the beginning, so if I need to, I can. So let's just do this. This board is divided into 6 segments. Int 1, currently have nothing patched to intensity 6. I'm going to put it up there in case I change my mind and decide to add something to it. Next up, I've got color fades, crossovers, and green magenta point. Why I did it like that, I probably had a reason. Well, we're in it now. I can fix that later in presets if I really want to. I want to lay it out differently or do any of that. But for now, let's just go with what's written. Maybe I'll try it out a different way later if I want to. Okay. Remember the color fade, what do I call it? It's really just crossover between red, green, and blue and color temperature. We'll call this GMP. It's almost a little much. Back in the day, you'd walk into a rock club and you'd look at the board and I don't know. I was really know much about lighting at the time. These days, it would always be baffling what all this stuff meant. All right, so go over to here. Okay. How do I want to do this? Well, let's keep it simple. So we've got R. Okay. So I've got it labeled. I want it now. Probably check it. That's set up. There we go. All right, cool. So I think next time I'm probably gonna leave capture open with a window on patch. I'm sure it looks cool. Watching everything kind of turn on, how it turns on. There might be some cool things to kind of look at in there. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, so let's put these color groups down. Okay, lights come off. Intensities. Right now, our crossfade probably isn't going to do a whole lot. So that's just everything in RGB right now. That's everything in color temp. So we really want to see that difference. We're going to drag that color temp down. Is that full crossover? Yeah. So this is color temp all the way. This is going up. Lay on the NDI. Is that a skip right there? Let's see what that skip is. Yeah, it skips somewhere in that fader. This fader's got to get cleaned. Let's see which one it is. Also could be a data skip from the neutron. Let's see. I'll have to hook them up to lights and find out, I guess. Cool. So we're going to keep it in color for a minute. Actually, got to check these GMPs. So let's go all the way down here. There's some weird fader things going on over there. Just gonna bring the color temperature up a little bit. Our GMP's back. This visualizer might not be able to speak that. There we go. So let me just move this all the way up. Okay, so that color group just went out. See how that works as kind of an intensity? Make that color group red. Okay, make that color group green. Okay. It definitely looks like a neutron issue. It's probably the last thing I talk about on this. Just leave that red for now. So those two lights just went out. We want to be blue. There we go. Red's a little strong. I'm going to dim that. You notice I'm dimming, but I'm not using intensity. I'm just using color. And that looks like garbage. So I'm going to go over to my crossfade on 1 and see if that changes me. Yeah. I'm fully in color temperature. Should be crossing over. It's here. It's interesting how it flips like that. On the low, it's capture. Yep. One thing capture can't do, the light could do. In capture, their light model can't crossfade between color temp and RGB. So this is a horrible design if you only want to light and capture. But in the real world, the fixtures do that. So you just gotta kind of remember that while you're designing, and remember that you're probably going to do any color temp mixes on site in person, right? Now, if you want to work with the color, I can just go to this group and add a little green, and a little blue. So we can add a little bit of boy red, a little jumpy. All right, cool. I hate that blue. I really do. I hate it so much. What group is that in? Let me just flip those lights over. Yeah, so those are in that. So these all are crossed, by the way, so they don't make any kind of, they make sense if you're trying to design a flexible light system, but they don't, yeah, it's the kind of thing you're going to have to, there we go. All right, I'm just going to ease that up. Yeah, like that. All right. Now we're kind of got these blue. I'm going to take these out real quick. So those are those two lights right there. I'm going to check this color crossfade. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of bring these up and make them green because I feel like it. I'm going to see where that color crossfade is. And it's right there. Right. So you can't crossfade it like you can in reality, but you can definitely do that. Alrighty. Cool. So you see. All right. So it looks like the board is actually functioning pretty well. I'm going to take all of these attributes. I'm going to put them up at full.
Now, the tops of these old faders, that's where you get there's kind of dead zones that kind of get over time. So I recommend kind of when you want to do full, you're feeling like doing full, kind of push up real close to the top. Now, some super science stuff you can do to take care of that in the console. Haven't really looked it up yet, but I'm sure it's there. I've been really wanting to dig in deep on these. I kind of knew how to run the NSIs and the clubs back in the day and that sort of thing. And yeah, I could put a stage wash together on one of these, patch 1 to 1, 24 in a dimmer, no problem. This kind of stuff, not anything I ever had to do. All right, so I'm going to take this one down. That's my front light. That's great. Let's take them all down over here and see what we got. Okay, just going to go one at a time. Okay, so that's your cross. This is a left-right cross. This is basically left side, right side. Okay. And it looks like intensity 2, got nothing going on. If I look over on that, I know it should be 8, right? And 8 is the number for the center fixture. That's obviously something I have to fix. Go over here. Those are those two lights right there. I'm going to call these the high side ups, as I like to, even though they're totally just backlights right now. That's how I organize my show file. That's how I'm going to do it. So that's that right there. 5 just for the back. These groups are pretty logical if you're programming a show. And sometimes the one intensity group there could contain 60 fixtures. Obviously, those groups can overlap. When you're on a larger console, just hit setup. Okay, what are we missing? 2 should be 8. So I'm going to want to just go back down here. Go to dimmer 2. And it's going to give me all kinds of. All right, so I'm back. Fixed a couple things. The NDI camera died. You don't hear about all that. So went over. Light was pointing at the sky. Let me flash through. So there's the left and right. There's the center. There's the sides. There's the backs. Okay. Now I have a double center. I think I'm going to make that one a double center for 6. I'm going to do something with 6. Cool. So I like a working light system for the most part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and spend some time in Capture, which is design, plot, and visualization software. And I'm going to switch out the filters that go in front, change it from different degrees, and work on the focus and get it to where it's like show ready. And then once I get to that point with the visualizer, I'm going to go ahead and start programming some different looks at cues into the LP1524 that will work for an AX9 setup. Today I'm using a Obsidian Netron EN12 with a 5-pin to 5-pin adapter to go in copper DMX. It's converting that for me into ArtNet, and that's how I'm getting signal into Capture. There are some very inexpensive ArtNet boxes or USB interfaces you could buy to do this. And I'm going to put a list of resources on the bottom. Feel free to message me or comment if you have any questions or something you want to know, or you have a really dumb idea that's a total waste of time. Please send it to me. I like working on dumb ideas. It's my favorite thing to do. Sometimes I even do it for a living. All right, here we go. Just going to play with the lights real quick because that's what I like. That's why I got into this. All right, that's a nice little light there. Probably going to see some. Let me just do one thing before I get out of here. This will look pretty weird if I use the master, because the attributes are going to cycle, right? So we go down to 0. Cool. Thank you. See you soon.